Welcome, everybody. It is another episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 101, where Will and I are going to wax lyrical, cross swords, cross paths, cross streams, and talk about anime and manga. I am one of your co-hosts, Jason, joined as always, as usual, with Will. What's up?
Howdy, y'all. We're going to get into some new waters, something that we haven't talked about ever in our history of the GAP. Yes, we've done a lot of thematic analyses, we've done a lot of series analyses as well, but this time around, we're actually doing something that I didn't think we would ever have a chance to talk about, simply because a lot of this shit didn't really exist until one day something came up on my For You feed on my Google app, and I just thought, wow, I haven't seen this kind of thing happen in a long time. And in the midst of it all, drunkenly one night when Jason and I were at a friend's birthday party, after 5 or 6 bottles of sake deep, I go up to Jason and say, Jason, I need to talk to you right now.
Okay, what's up?
You remember we need a thematic analysis for our podcast?
Yeah, episode 101.
Crossovers. Let's talk about crossovers. What about crossovers? Do you know that there's a Naruto and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover? No? Okay, we're talking about it for this episode. Okay.
No. I said okay, and then you literally just walked away.
Yeah.
That was it. And I was just like, what just happened? But okay, sure.
And then a month and a half later, I realized, fuck, I actually need to write a talker for this. Otherwise, I have no idea how to actually carry this discussion.
Hey, it's pretty comprehensive.
Yes. So, through my drunken ramblings, we are going to be discussing crossovers. So, as per usual, we have to at least explain what a crossover is, unless you already know, in which case I hope that you already know what a crossover is. But for those who don't, according to Wikipedia, a crossover is a placement of 2 or more otherwise distinct fictional characters, settings, or universes into the context of a single unified story. They can come from different sort of arrangements, legal or maybe illegal, depending on, for example, you have your dojins and your fan stories and whatnot.
I don't necessarily think it's illegal at that point, right? It's shades of gray
area.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So different, relevant copyright holders. So there's intercompany crossovers. There's corporate ownerships, in which properties are under one umbrella, or like one company or one producer or one creator, or fan fiction, doujinshis, stuff like that. So, why do we want to talk about crossovers? I already mentioned that I was pretty much stumped by the whole Naruto Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover, and it's actually been doing well enough for a mini series of comics to actually come out. They're on volume 2 right now. Now, crossovers in itself has existed across many forms of entertainment media, from comics, movies, TV shows, all the way through to music and video games. They're legitimately everywhere. The biggest crossover of my lifetime when I was a kid, actually, was the video game Marvel vs. Capcom. I think there's like 3 versions of it now, right? Marvel vs. Capcom 2, 3. There's a 4th one. Awesome. I'm gonna need to check it out.
It's infinite, not 4 though.
Then you also have some crossovers in which certain characters appear in gaming IPs that they originally didn't really have any reason of being in. Like, for example, you mentioned Soul Calibur in the previous episode, having Master Chief in there.
Or Link, right?
Master Chief itself. Link kind of is a sword-wielding dude that, hack and slashes.
But still a crossover.
But Master Chief is an FPS with a fucking rifle.
Yeah. Actually, let me double check, because if I remember correctly, and this is kind of funny because...
Does he fight with the sword?
I don't think that is the Master Chief that we know.
Oh, okay. So it's a different reality.
Right. No, it's a different Spartan.
Oh, okay. Now there's other games that have also shown different kind of crossovers as well, like Street Fighter and having Yor in there. Persona 4 Arena, where they had characters across Persona 3 and Persona 4. And then, of course, as mentioned, you get guest characters that show up in different fighting games. Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur, Street Fighter, and so on and so on. In movies, the clearest example right now is the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all their properties as well. So, you have Thor showing up in a Spider-Man movie, or you have Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch together or whatnot. Those things have been happening ever since Iron Man came out in 2008. Okay, comic books, like what I mentioned with the Marvel properties. You also have the DC Extended Universe, cartoons. There's a bunch of different crossovers of like Cartoon Network and Hanna-Barbera properties, like the Flintstones meet the Jetsons. You've had Johnny Bravo meeting different characters. You've had Powerpuff Girls in different things as well. You had Teen Titans from the DC universe showing up in different things as well. In live action, like Sentai, you've had collaborations between Ultraman and Kamen Rider. I'm sure Power Rangers have showed up somewhere as well, though I do need to remember what the actual name for the Japanese Power Rangers is. It's not called Power Rangers. Power Rangers is an American thing. Then music, I think the clearest example, at least for my generation, for Jason's generation, maybe not the ones that are born, after the year 2000.
We're kind of in the same bracket, bro.
That's what as I said, our generation.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying you and I are different.
Okay.
I'm overlaying.
My bad.
Right. The biggest one was Collision Course by Jay-Z and Linkin Park, and then as a recent example in anime, Baki and Kengan Ashura. There's also a little bit in terms of like maybe not within just specifically entertainment media, but just sort of visual media in itself as well through the works of clothing and apparel. So, Versace and JoJo, you've got Initial Gits, Initial and Uzumaki, you've got Uniqlo and a bunch of different IPs as well. So crossovers have always existed ever since the idea of creating entertainment media has come around. Being able to create fictional narratives of what would happen if one character from one story were to exist in another person's universe and vice versa.
Right.
And more often than not, whenever these kinds of things come up, people pay attention. People definitely keep an eye on why such a crossover existed, and also to check it out and see if such a crossover works. So there's definitely appeals to it because of the fact that when we have different forms of media, especially let's say, for example, with comic books, when Spider-Man first shows up with the Fantastic Four, or when Iron Man starts working with the Hulk and whatnot, right? You then see, yes, they are all under the Marvel umbrella, but you definitely have fans who only like Spider-Man, who only like Iron Man, who only like Thor, and so on.
Or X-Men, yeah.
And so when you see all those things come together, the overlapping fan bases can obviously provide great potential for commercial success.
Right.
Marketing campaigns are going to go off the charts. I don't think that we had anything bigger in terms of a crossover experience than what happened with the first three phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Avengers.
Yeah, in terms of like pop culture penetration, in terms of profitability, commercial success, in terms of turning essentially comic books that I would say in the zeitgeist of popular cultures was still very niche at the time to now the mainstream. Also, by the way, Will, I was Googling it. I think Master Chief or a Spartan was only in Dead or Alive 4 as a guest character. And it's apparently called Nicole-458 of the Spartan 2 Command. Okay. I don't know if there actually is a guest character in Soul Calibur. I don't know why I seem to be so fixated on that. But anyways, yeah, I agree. The biggest thing that I would say is very relevant in almost every facet of entertainment is the MCU. We can say whatever about it now, but the first three phases was insane.
I mean, I think like Endgame, Avengers, like the movie, those two movies themselves was just like every cinema was packed. Everybody was talking about it. Damn, there were even people. I think there was actually a news article and a video that came along with it that happened here in Hong Kong at Cyberport down south, where there was somebody who had watched an earlier showing of the Endgame movie,
and he spoiled it,
and then immediately a crowd bum rushed him and fucking started kicking the shit out of him.
Okay, well, yeah, well, don't resort to violence. We're not advocating for that.
But don't be a dick.
But don't be a dick as well, guys. Don't be that person that when Harry Potter book whatever shows up, you go around bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, blasting out, this spoiler, or this person dies, or that person, blah, 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 blah. Like, don't be a dick. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, okay? But going back to crossovers, though, it's also just because you can doesn't mean you should, right?
Well, let's
not necessarily.
Yeah, let's. I mean, like, there's always like an opportunity to try something different, and if it's not going to be creating something that is completely new and novel, why not try and mash two things together and see if it works?
Oh, Will. Okay, I just want to get your quick take on it. Do you think crossover is a lazy kind of methodology to squeeze blood from a stone?
It depends on how you see it. If it was just to sort of introduce a character or a series of people into one specific episode or like one specific arc, I would say that is kind of lazy. In the sense that you already have an existing universe, and the only thing you did was add new characters into it. You added a new storyline into it, but it doesn't necessarily have a long-lasting impact going forward. If, however, it is something that is wholly new, in the sense that you create a new world or a new parallel for both of these franchises to exist in, like your Marvel versus Capcoms, right? Then that would work. That wouldn't be lazy. Because you might not be using and creating a new story, but you are creating a new experience.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's something that hasn't existed before. Who would have thought that you would see Ryu fighting against Spider-Man? Or Cammy duking it down with Naruto or whoever, like in some sort of like fictional Jump versus Capcom thing.
Sure.
Right? Like, those things are exciting for fans. It definitely, like, stokes a lot of fan service. I would love to see Spider-Man beating on fucking
Batman.
I would love to see that kind of shit, right? Like, because it hasn't existed. Because it's taboo. You cannot have Marvel coming together with DC.
Sacrilegious.
But what if it did?
Yeah.
Right?
And I think going off of that, right, the market...
Actually, it did happen before. I think back in the day...
No, it definitely did.
Back in the day, the DC Marvel were not as, like, hands-off-ish.
100% it did. I can bet money on it, but I just don't know if it did. I just know it did, though. Okay. The reason why I think when you sell it, I guess, the idea to an executive or to, like, a company, that your parent company, of a crossover and the success, the reason is because, for example, when Will mentions Marvel versus DC or whatever, or other comic books, right, or other mangas, usually speaking, there is compatibility. Usually, in other words, they're either from the same genre, like, for example, these One Piece and Bleach is both shonen action and from Shonen Jump. So if you are a fan of Bleach, chances are you could be, or you already are, a fan of One Piece. So if we put the two things that you like or love together, it's like double the potential, right?
It's in a sense that, like, not just the novelty itself, but also the opportunity to, expand their universes, right? Being able to see, hey, look, if these people can have this kind of skill set, how would that skill set survive in this universe? Or how would that character use their tactical nous to be able to outsmart villains from another one? So, like, there's this YouTuber, I forgot his name, but he did this really interesting video of what would happen if Spider-Man and Batman role reversed, where Spider-Man was in Gotham City and
Batman
was in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And he was saying, like, how would they be able to use the skill sets they have to be able to take down the villains of that respective universe? And I thought it was actually really interesting. But it's like, that shit is kind of like the theory crafting. It's the kind of seeing...
That's like, the Goku versus Superman scenario. That is tried and true, right?
I don't want to talk about that shit.
I know, we're not talking about
that fan base is kind of crazy.
No, okay, we're not touching it, but...
That same fan base, that same sort of, like, people who say, like, oh, Goku can beat anything because Goku's the stronger... They even did a video called, what if Goku fought against COVID-19? Or Goku fought against AIDS?
No, but can it beat the Spiral people, though?
Yeah. Oh, fuck anti-spiral people. Fuck you.
Okay. Okay, so not only is it expanding the world, right? I also think that when earlier you talked about like introduce a new character. I think one thing that I always resort back to that I really like is a certain blank, like a certain magical index, scientific railgun, scientific accelerator. Because technically speaking, they are their own distinct anime series, but they have, in almost like in the MCU, they overlap where there's certain events where the main character from Magical Index is here from Railgun. Obviously, what happened is the other way around. The girl from Railgun shows up in Magical Index briefly. There is kind of like an event or a kind of a arc that they go through, and then she just kind of disappears from Magical Index, not because she died or anything, but because, they moved on to other arcs, right? Or other affairs. But technically in the same world, at the same time, this thing is happening, which concerns the Railgun series.
And does that sort of phenomena then provide like a lasting experience for people of that particular series?
Mm-hmm.
Then I would say that that's like a perfect. I mean,
it's a crossover within itself in a way.
It's an interesting one because of the fact that it's still kind of within like a certain
like confined, right?
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about, for example, like the Fate series or like Type Moon, right?
Yep.
Or even Marvel.
Yes,
right, because it's all Marvel properties in the end, right? But yeah, I think like the other thing as well, like when it comes to introducing a different set of characters from one universe on one particular media format into another as well, it provides. I guess when I was saying that, like the whole creativity angle, it's like, oh, this thing already exists, so it's not like you need to come with something new. You're just plugging characters and settings from one into another. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's like you can just put Spider-Man into a Doctor Strange movie and it'll work.
It's all about the implementation, right?
It's how innovative can you be in terms of like, this person has these kinds of strengths but these weaknesses. Are you going to highlight them in this new world, or are you just going to like sort of just paste them in there and say it's fine, Spider-Man is OP as fuck, he'll be able to achieve anything?
And I think going off of that, right, it also is an excuse to extend the storyline past that original, I guess, the OG series, if you will, or the OG series of the crossover of the two crossovers, right?
Yeah.
The one that I kind of wrote in our docket is the fighting game, because I love fighting games, Persona 4 Arena and Persona Arena 4 Ultimax. So in both of those, there is a singular character that is completely brand new, Labris and Sho Minazuki, who is not part of any of the Personas earlier on, and it's only like in the video game fighting game and not in the RPGs and anything else. And also, it turns out that they married Persona 3 and the Persona 4, not married as in like they combined it. And they're a little bit older. And you get to see them, but in a different light, in a different perspective. And I thought it was really cool. And it's not necessarily a simple cut and paste, combine, merge job that a lot of crossovers can be, right? It's all about the implementation.
Yep. So in terms of like, when you were talking about sort of like introducing new things or reintroducing old things as well, I think one thing that I see here as well, that you mentioned about SNK characters coming back in Street Fighter 6.
Yeah. Hey, spoiler alert, dear listeners, I talk about a lot of fighting games in this episode as an example because...
Are you even an anime podcaster anymore? You've been talking about video games for the past 2 episodes now.
Yeah, but fighting games are great. Okay.
The only reason why I put that out is because Mai Shiranui is mentioned there, and there's a very specific reason as to why she's
and guess what? In Street Fighter 6 right now, she's released as of recording. She's
I know.
It's very cultured.
Oh, I know. There's somebody released like a 3-minute video just capturing the facial expressions of the character introduction for Mai. I wonder why.
Okay. So, but even if, right, there's guest characters or new exclusive characters in your property, in your series, it could also mean potential collaboration for the future, right? Like it could mean that, hey, rather than going full on, or we're planning a project down the line, we need to, plant the seed of collaboration and cooperation. Let's just do a crossover now to introduce everyone and sort of get everyone acquainted, and then we do the full on series.
I mean, that's why you have multiple seasons of Isekai Quartet, and then it started off with 4 different series, and then they've added more to it since then. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Right, and there's also a reason why I only just realized, right? There are 4 iterations of Marvel vs. Capcom. I always thought it was 3. I haven't been playing anything since 2. So yeah, but yeah, no, definitely. In the sense, I understand your initial comment of whether or not doing a crossover is lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we've talked about this. If things are successful and things can provide a new experience, right? Why not just try and make as much money and as much attention for it for as long as you can, and especially if it works, right? So you can't blame the industry, or you can't blame the creators for wanting to try this thing out in the first place. I mean, fuck, dude. That's why we had fucking Batman versus Superman, despite how bad that movie is, right? People and that's why you have people continuously trying to make a DC extended universe movie series, even though shit doesn't work, right? Suicide Squad worked, and then it didn't work, and then it worked, and then it didn't work.
And now there's Suicide Squad Isekai, which on paper
that's why I said it worked and didn't.
Yeah.
It worked and didn't. Because I think there was Birds of Prey, which is really good. There was a movie in between the first Suicide Squad, and then the second one was not good because they had a new character set. And then there was another Suicide Squad movie that was really good. And then Isekai came out, and everyone was just like, eh.
But Ninja Batman, though,
I love Ninja Batman. I don't care what anyone says.
Aren't they releasing the Yakuza one soon? The Ninja Batman sequel? Or did you not know about this?
I did not know about that.
Wait, what? Hold on. Yeah, Ninja Batman, Yakuza.
Wait. Oh, yeah, okay, Yakuza League. Okay, that one,
yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'm familiar with that, though.
Okay. Because I was about to blow your mind. I was really like, oh my god.
I thought for a minute it's like Batman becomes Yakuza. No, I am aware of this.
And you might be like, okay, Jason, why are you talking about video games again? But I'm going to tie it with an anime series. Did you know, dear listeners, one of a very popular anime fighting game is Guilty Gear, and right now they're in Guilty Gear Strive. Their Season 4 DLC character, the last of the 4 characters for Season 4, is Lucy from Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So where, how, why with CD Projekt Red, I don't know, but hey.
I mean, why is Master Chief in
Dead or Alive or whatever,
or Soul Calibur, right?
Yeah, I don't. It's to be honest, it sounds cool. It sounds cool as
that's
fuck.
The thing. It's the nostalgia. It's the fan service. It's the fans who, especially if you're fans of the overlapping series.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Why not? Just because you like Cyberpunk Edgerunners doesn't mean you hate Guilty Gear. There's nothing in relationship whatsoever, right? You could like both of them separately.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see a continuum, when you see a point of commonality between them, you then think, this is definitely something that's worth checking out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to try out this DLC.
Or I don't even know what they're going to do, but I will be there to see how they do it, right?
Yeah. So, crossovers are a success, right? Crossovers work all the time because when you bridge together 2 very successful things, it has to work, right?
Yeah, of course. It's very easy. Yeah, no, it's almost sure win, Will.
No, absolutely not. It's never a guarantee. Of course, when you say that you have success A and success B and you put them together, you get success C. That's not the most simple calculation you can get. And there are going to be people, like you mentioned with your initial comment, of this is just a lazy thing to do.
A cash grab, right? So now we are definitely going into the cons of crossovers, right? Now, I wouldn't say cons, but it's more like the negative consequences that can arise from crossovers.
Or just the fact that it just doesn't pan out, right?
Yeah.
And that relates back to your initial comment of, isn't this just a lazy attempt of creating content? And in some ways, yes, it can be.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of instances, especially within American television, that a crossover just seems like a very out of place thing. I can already tell you, for example, like Family Guy mixing in with The Simpsons. I watched that episode. It fucking sucked. There's definitely series like, for example, like Bones that have definitely crossed over with some other American series, like The Mentalist or something like that. There's another one,
CSI Miami and CSI Las Vegas.
That one is obviously, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, why? Like, just build within your world, bro.
No, because to introduce CSI Miami.
Just leave it there.
Was it Criminal Minds also or something?
I mean, there was also that one episode in Brooklyn Nine-Nine where they introduced Zooey Deschanel. Yeah, from New Girl. Which, okay, her little bit was funny, but at the same time, it's just like, why? And it's just, I understand, maybe they're part of the same studio. Maybe they're part of the same production company. Who knows? But when you see those kinds of things, it's never guaranteed that you're going to be expecting or even generating the same level of enthusiasm from fans. Sometimes you could just feel like it's a very forced thing. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense to have this character from this series that's so distant from the property that you have, and you just shove them in there to generate hype, to get people glued to your property. It's like, oh, look at this. We have The Walking Dead, and we're going to introduce a character from another zombie movie in here, right? Like, what's the movie with Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson? The
Zombieland?
Yeah, Zombieland. Yeah. Oh, wow. That was a really easy name to guess, and I fluffed that one. Yeah, imagine like Walking Dead and Zombieland kind of clash together. That shit would suck because the tones are so fucking different. One is legitimately where the zombies aren't even the bad people. It's just the fact that bad people do bad things, regardless of zombies being around. And the other one is, let's just kill some fucking zombies.
Right.
You mash those two together. There are fans of both properties. Right?
Yeah.
Zombieland, at least, I think there's 2 movies, right? Some of them, I loved that one. Walking Dead, I loved the first episode. I hated everything else afterwards. But you mash those two together, like, you just feel like this is a very forced, lazy, unnecessary collaboration that nobody asked for.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the fan base is like, so you spent the last X amount of resources and time to do this when you could do the sequel to the thing I like? Why?
Yeah, it's there is such a thing as tribalism in any form of media or any form of entertainment, including sports, right? Like, for example, just like how you do a lot of the video game analogies, I'll do a lot of sports analogies.
Sure.
Imagine the Luka Doncic and Lakers trade.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden now it's like, oh, you're going to get Luka to collaborate with LeBron and the Lakers.
For
Lakers
Anthony
Davis,
Davis.
they're great, but then everybody else should be like, what the fuck is going on? Much like in soccer, much like in NFL, where you have players that come from a rival team and they cross the divide and join your biggest rival.
Yeah. And, okay, so this is, as of recording, the Luka Doncic trade is a very hot button, very, like,
well, actually,
crazy.
No, this will release in, like, mid-March, so
yeah.
This is well and truly.
Like,
he's already played a few games now.
Yeah, okay. But... since it's been a while then since the news broke, you would probably remember the backlash that everyone had from the Mavericks. The fans, they went outside the stadium to protest and stuff. That is literally the fan backlash from like a change or a crossover when everything was good. And just give me more of it.
I think the biggest one in recent memory would be Kevin Durant going to the Warriors. Because he had a good thing going with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they had made it to the finals a couple times, but like they just kept on meeting teams that were just that little bit better than them, and they saw him moving over to the Warriors and winning rings over there, and then leaving and doing other things, and they felt that was just.
I mean,
that was just a cheat code.
I mean, if we are still on the NBA train, what if Curry was not part of the Golden State? Can you imagine that? What if LeBron was not part of Cavs? At that time, it was unthinkable, right? But now, obviously...
Well, then he made that big decision.
To Heat,
where
right?
where they actually got national TV to be like, broadcasting for an hour. Where's LeBron going to go? I'm going to Miami. Whoa! He's going to Miami. Everyone's like, what the fuck? This is going to ruin basketball. And guess what? They did. They ended up winning one ring.
He got what he want. LeBron got what he wanted. But okay, so going off of that, right? The same thing lies with anime and manga, because sometimes getting a second or a third season of something that I really like, aka, Land of the Illustrious, for example.
Oh, sorry, Heat fans. You guys won 2 rings with LeBron. Not one. My
Okay.
mistake.
All good.
Yeah, all good.
But I want season 2 of Land of the Illustrious. I want Studio Orange to do it, but I'm like, okay, you're making Trigun Stampede. Okay, you're making Beastars. Now Beastars is over. Okay.
Wait, what does this have to do with crossovers, though?
Well, what I mean is like, oh wait, shit. I guess what I'm trying to say is fan backlash when it comes to efforts of I want that thing. Like I'm trying to like capture that sentiment, right? Like of the crossover.
What I mean more in terms of like the fan backlash is imagine if you got Naruto and moved them into One Piece, but then Naruto just gets completely dogged on. Like, no matter what
I see.
That's what I mean in terms of like tribalism. You want to see your guy be the best. You want to see Naruto be the best. You want to see Goku be the best. But when you introduce him into a new series, what do? You can't have both of them win, or can you?
You collaborate.
Because you do. Because if you do, then great. But at the same time, it's like, especially when we talk about anime, right? It's not like TV shows where like a person that looks on screen is going to look different from looking in a different. No, it's the same person.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have different studios making things, right? Like imagine you introduce Naruto from PRO into Demon Slayer from Ufotable. Are you going to draw Naruto in Ufotable style, or are you going to do the other way around? Right?
I mean, it depends.
Then at that point, you're sort of either diluting or demeaning the identity of that original or that respective property.
And can you imagine the backlash? I mean, going off of what I'm saying, can you imagine the backlash when instead of giving you the first of the 3 movies for the Infinity Castle, I give you Naruto crossover instead?
Demon Slayer fans would riot.
Yeah.
Naruto fans would probably riot. They will definitely riot, because then for them they'll just be like, no, my guy's better. No, your guy sucks. No, your guy is weak.
And this is the part where, even though I think it is a negative aspect of crossovers, it also can work, but it really depends on the execution, which is sometimes crossovers simply don't make sense, right? Like certain combinations or certain, where these 2 properties' paths cross. It's just like, it's not going to work. But of course, sometimes it does magically because we never expected it, right? It's like a new experience that we didn't even predict or could foresee, but it just happens.
A lot of it is just down to business decisions too. And we've talked about this a while ago during one of our anime icebergs, where there was a collaboration of One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, or just Dragon Ball in general, and Toriko. All beloved franchises at the time. I can't really say for Toriko now, but definitely at the time it was super hyped. So what does Jump do? Why don't we put all them 3 together and make a super episode? And everyone watched it and everyone hated it. Because what does it even mean? Right? Does it do anything to extend the universe within One Piece? Does it make it so that Toriko's journey can go further in terms of acquiring the ultimate recipe? Does Dragon Ball Z end up like creating like new character moves and whatnot? No, nothing happened. Ever since then, One Piece is still One Piece. Dragon Ball is still Dragon Ball. Toriko is dead.
It's like an unnecessary pit stop. Like, why did you do this?
Cash grab. Make that money.
Easy way out.
Try and push Toriko into the zeitgeist and get them onto that pedestal where it was supposed to dethrone Bleach. It never happened, and guess what? Bleach has risen from the ashes and taken back its throne in the big 3.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing that is really difficult when it comes to balancing a certain crossover is, let's say it works the first time, right? This partnership between these 2 IPs. Well, if it worked the first time, it should work a second and third and fourth time, right? Because that's what you guys want. As long as we make the same story, even though, it's technically 2 separate properties, but you guys really liked it, so I'm going to give you more of what you like, right?
Did you like Secret Wars from Marvel Studios? Did you like Miss Marvel? Did you like the Eternals? Nobody did. Well, maybe Ms. Marvel, but nobody liked Eternals. Nobody liked Secret Wars. But you were definitely making that shit under the Marvel umbrella in hopes that there was going to be a crossover of those properties in the future. Shit ain't gonna work. You wanted to make Batman, you wanted to make Iron Man and Spider-Man and all that. That should work because they had time to be able to build up their respective properties and then put them all together without completely making it feel like you're just forcing more of these crossovers. But then now with like the new generation or the new iteration of Marvel movies, like with Shang-Chi, like with Ant-Man, like with what was supposed to be, the new leader of the Avengers, Black Panther, there's no continuation at all. There's no way of being able to intersect these stories together. So then when you then have us thinking in the future, for at least for Phase 5 and Phase 6, there's going to be these Avenger movies. Bruh, we lost interest in this shit a long time ago.
I lost interest a long time ago.
You're making it really hard for us to continue riding that level of enthusiasm. We're fatigued. We're tired. We're overexposed.
And I don't know, Will, if there really is a very strong case for this in anime and manga. So I would like to say, at least on instinct and gut feeling, that even though this is 100% a negative aspect of crossovers, I think this one in particular, anime manga, has been quite good in terms of avoiding overexposure fatigue, or even like diluting what made it good, what made the property good in the first place. I don't know. Is there?
That's hard to say. I mean, like, I don't know about fatigue, but the industry definitely tries to get you to watch more Demon Slayer. They try to get you to watch more Jujutsu Kaisen. They try to get you to watch more of these because every other season or every other year there's more Demon Slayer. There's more movies you need to go watch.
No, but are you thinking of like from a crossover perspective though? So it's like quartet, right? Isekai quartets. Like, I think it's okay.
Well,
right?
we're not getting into that part yet.
Okay,
right? You're jumping a little too far ahead. Well, because
Sure.
we're talking about overexposure here,
Yes.
right? And so, like for example, like the Isekai quartets thing, that works because they don't try and shove more and more Isekai quartet because it's not even a quartet anymore.
It's like a quintet.
Yeah, I thought there were 6 properties in there because they added. Who were the original? Overlord was definitely one of the originals.
Konosuba,
Yep.
Shield Hero.
Because they added Tanya afterwards.
Oh, they did add Tanya. No, I think Tanya was the OG.
You will need to. I actually haven't watched it. Yeah. So yeah, Tanya's there. Yeah, it started with Konosuba, Overlord, ReZero, and Tanya. Then they added the Cautious Hero, and
then they added Shield.
Yeah, Rising of the Shield Hero. So now it's a sextet.
A
sextet.
Yeah.
A septet would be 7.
Septet will be 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? There would be
So
maybe.
it was a kind of managed approach. They actually released like 2 consecutive seasons over 2 over like 2019.
What was the ranking of or the score for the latest one?
You mean the one that was
6 of them?
The 6 of them. I would need to actually have a look. I can pull up the stats for
Yeah.
it. So
I mean, it would be cool because technically that would be overexposure and fatigue and diluting the brand, right? Because you're putting more in, hoping that it would work.
Oh wow. Okay. 7.37 for the first season, and then 7.36 for the second season. There was also a movie. Right?
What?
It's a quartet movie, Another World.
What?
And that one came out in 2020. That one has a 7.47.
Wait, all of these are pretty good scores.
Yeah, they're decent. Right?
And then the quintet, and then the sextet.
I don't know who's in this one, but apparently the character list that they have listed on my anime list are characters from Konosuba, ReZero, and Overlord.
Okay.
I see Tanya in here too, though. So yeah, basically it's again another expanded universe. But yeah, so with this one, every year or every other year, over the course of like 4 years, they released 2 series and 1 movie, which I think is a good level.
Like a pace, right?
Right? You don't need to continuously create more and more of these things put together and then try and force more Isekai quartet stuff. the other thing I would say, the reason why it works is the fact that there actually aren't that many crossovers in anime in general.
Yeah.
So then when you have that one novel experience, it's great. It's more the fact that with Marvel, right?
Yeah.
They have so many movies and they have so many crossovers and you have so many plans to try and
You have
expand this
homework.
world. When at that point, it's like, how far can you expand this world?
Right.
Like Marvel as a comic company, when they actually made comics, they spent decades creating each character, right?
Mhm.
And therefore that was why they could slowly introduce like the Secret Wars in
Right.
there, and that was super popular.
Yeah.
Right? Or like the
Civil War.
or the Secret Wars is
But also Civil War.
yeah, and then also like the fact that they also did like Marvel Zombies as well.
Yeah,
right?
I love that series.
They took a long time to build up each individual series, each individual property before they decided, let's try this shit out, and it fucking worked.
But going off of what you just said, I think that's why, at least with these negative aspects, I think anime and manga kind of avoids it. It's more of like the Western media that does it to an egregious degree, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean that's why it's clear that like when we talk crossovers, a lot of it happens in Western media versus Japanese media. But there is another reason why it doesn't exist as much within Japanese media.
Can I ask you a quick question? As someone who probably watched more Fate series stuff than me, how was Carnival Phantasm?
Phantasm?
Right?
It's lighthearted. It's just seeing characters on a game show doing random things. It's fan service.
But it is a crossover, but it was just fine, right?
Of the Type Moon stuff.
Yeah, of the Type Moon stuff.
It's essentially like if you are a fan of Type Moon, then you would like it. But if you were a fan of like Fate, then you might not necessarily like it, simply because the fact that there's not a whole lot of Fate stuff in there other than just the characters. I guess you could kind of say like with the Emiya one where they they go cooking and shit. It's the same thing where it's like it's the fake characters, but they're not fighting. They're just doing random
Crossover with cuisine.
Yeah. But it worked because they still kept a lot of the quips and stuff in there, right? So that's
like
why
the personality.
So that's where like the innovation and the challenge comes in,
and the novelty.
What happens when you remove those characters from their usual setting and you put them in a setting where like actually like please don't kill each other, like don't fight, just coexist.
Well, I'll be super honest. The Emiya cooking slice of life crossover, I hardly remember anything.
Again, that's actually not a crossover.
It's like
it's just like it's a
spin-off.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I do remember that volleyball scene.
Yes.
That's the only thing I remember from that series.
Which is dope. But again, a slice of life's go, right? Like there's not a whole lot that is super memorable. It's an overall experience, right? Starting from start to finish, and like building a general mood and an affinity to the characters themselves, as opposed to notable events, right? So this is why, like, when it comes to looking at Japanese media, right? Why we don't necessarily see a lot of these kind of crossovers. The major one is very straightforward. IP protection. Companies are a lot more strict in Japan in terms of allowing for someone else to use the likeness or even like the mention of their properties. Hence why, for example, you have all these people whenever they're streaming an anime or playing a game. You can't even have people who are doing live streams of games because, hey, this is infringing our IP. We're shutting you down. We'll copyright strike you. Shit happens. And that's why it's really hard to see cross properties that aren't under the same umbrella, whether it's the same company, the same studio, the same creator. And a lot of the crossovers we do see, like, for example, the Isekai Quartet, they all had the same publisher. There's another classic example of Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball. They were done by the same creator, right? And those kinds of things exist because the fact that you don't have a lot of legal hurdles and loopholes that you have to navigate in order for this thing to be created in the first place. It's really hard to go from one company to another, shake hands and say, I want to introduce my characters into your world and let's create something brand new, because that's not how IPs work in Japan. Unfortunately, they're going to be pretty stringent in terms of allowing anybody to use any mention or any likeness of their property in another format.
Look no further, in a way, I don't think it's actually kind of a crossover, but remember that Kagegurui mangaka who did that like isekai hero killer thing?
That, in a way, is a
crossover
because it's introducing different characters that are blatantly very much ripped off from
Aizen Gould. What was it? Tanya. I think one was Kirito for sure.
Yep.
And in that case, it got shut down so fast.
Yep. Right?
I mean, that's a very good example.
It's like the character designs are quote unquote different.
It's a parody. It's supposed to be a parody. And in the Western world, that's okay. But in Japan, no, hell no.
That's not allowed. That's why you can't say McDonald's. You have to say WuckDonald's.
Oh, yeah. I think that's really funny. I don't know if it's considered... It's not a crossover, right, of sorts. But it's like when I clearly know what it is, or when, oh, actually, you could use Burger King in your anime because we have an agreement. That is kind of like a crossover, actually.
Yeah, but they have to be very smart in how they do it because they don't want to get into legal trouble. And that's the situation that you have in trying to introduce crossovers in general that aren't tied to one company or tied to one studio or creator. When you need to bridge two worlds together, the legal landscape is not on your side. They're not going to allow you to do it because somebody is going to raise a suit and then you're going to be ordered to shut down.
And I guarantee you there is a lot of like unsuccessful crossovers that doesn't exist because they couldn't even get past the contract stage that we will never hear ever. Because
I don't even think it would even get to the contract stage. I think it would just be like you can't even mention it.
Right.
Because of how protective companies are of their IPs.
I mean, I also think that the creators also have, especially Japanese creators, have a certain level of pride and integrity to a certain extent that when they feel that they're involved in a crossover, it just feels wrong.
This is where I kind of wanted to bring up the Baki and Kengan Ashura crossover.
Because bring it up.
Because now you might be thinking that like it's just a crossover, they're going to be on an even field, and I didn't watch it, but like
me neither.
I'm pretty sure that like it's not like one's better than the other and whatnot. But it was done in the Baki style. So the artwork was done by like Baki animators, and it made sense from a marketing perspective because if you look in terms of like the most popular anime series on Netflix, Baki exceeds Kengan Ashura. Baki is by far way more popular, unfortunately, than Kengan Ashura. Therefore, Baki gets top billing. But imagine you are the creator or you're like part of the animation team of Kengan Ashura. You just got stiffed. You just you spent so long like working on like the art and also producing a really, really good series. I can't say popular because it's clearly not as popular as Baki, but it's still popular nonetheless, right? And then now it's like, whatever art styles and fighting styles you did, right? You guys had a grappler in Kengan Ashura. Well, ours is literally called Baki the Grappler. We're gonna use our style. Your grappler.
Shut the fuck up, Cosmos.
Yeah,
he's a fucking national treasure. Don't you fucking say that shit,
right? And that's how.
And that's literally it, right?
But you know the shit had to go one way or the other, and of course it's going to go to Baki because Netflix has all the metrics. Netflix knows who's more popular.
Also, they have final say, or whoever is the publisher and the executive committee has final say.
And that's the other reason why it even exists in the first place. It's Netflix.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with them coming together and being like, hey, you guys like fighting, we like fighting, we're going to put our shit together. No, absolutely fucking not. It was all down to the fact that Netflix holds the rights to both of them. They get to decide how they're going to make this crossover. Nobody asked for it. I'm sure the Baki fans did, but like a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people really do not like it.
Would you consider Records of Ragnarok a crossover?
That's different. That's very, very different. That's like saying that God of War is a crossover.
I would say so.
Why? Why would there be a crossover?
Of mythology.
It's Greek mythology.
But it's a crossover.
Of what? Of Zeus and Hera and But that's what?
Even though it's Creative Commons, or even though it's like there's no like patent, IP, copyright, trademark, it is still a different property or a different type of thing that is different than the...
No, it's a fictional story. It's a fictional representation of Greek mythology. Greek
Yeah.
mythology itself is not a crossover. It's like saying that God and Jesus together is a crossover.
No.
Yes, because they are born within Christianity, and that in itself has its own mythology, right?
But you said, like, placement of two or more otherwise distinct fictional characters, settings, or universes, right? So isn't Greek mythology a different setting?
Are they fictional?
Yeah.
Are they?
Are you telling me Hercules is, like, real in the sense of, like, going through those god trials and going through the Sphinx and all that stuff?
At this point, you're kind of bending the definition itself of a crossover. You're now just saying that all you have to do is just place one character in there, and that's already a crossover. But it's not. Like, it's an overbranching mythology. It's an overbranching story, right? So therefore, it's like it's all like Hercules is born out of Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
That's not therefore then being called a crossover.
Okay.
That's the stance that I'm taking. So I would absolutely not say that God of War or even Records of Ragnarok is a crossover.
Okay.
Right? It's well, okay, no, okay, that's different now. Now that you because God of War definitely not. But then when you introduce different gods and different fictional characters like Jack the Ripper and Adam, that in a sense, yes,
And Hercules?
that yes,
And Buddha?
yes, then I would say that is kind of that's like the Marvel versus Capcom thing. Then
Yes. No,
I would
that
say
is.
But I absolutely refuse to say that God of War is a crossover.
What about Drifters?
Yeah, kind of. But again, it's
Because Drifters is like different heroes from different times in a world to fight each other and
Yeah.
reimagined.
yeah, that would be an edge case, but that would still fall under the crossover. Because when you have like Japanese lords fighting against Joan of Arc,
I mean, Joan of Arc is fucking dope, though.
and in essence, and you would also, I mean, the Fate series in itself is also kind of crossing over of different
Hell yeah.
different fictional or real life heroes fighting against each other.
I mean, I right? Like, I know, obviously, for example, your definition and my definition, or maybe like the line that we decide or label as
The line's not that far. By
it's
the
not,
way.
but I still think that in of itself is a quite an interesting discussion, because you can kind of go all the way with it, but at the other time, isn't it kind of just saying basically, hey, listen, either you comply and give me Kengan Ashura so then I can make Baki, or we just don't do it and then Kengan Ashura can just, be second fiddle.
Yeah, but I think it depends on like how literal or how pedantic you want to be in terms of like what a crossover is. Because then, for example, like, I keep forgetting the name. Your boy Kong Ming would technically be a crossover.
Yeah,
but it really is not.
Also, yes.
Because then in that case, then like there's no point in calling reincarnations. They're all just crossovers.
Well, you're doing the literal crossing over into another world, but I would not consider it a crossover,
right?
In that sense, yeah.
Right. So that again,
you
that's
cross over, but it's not a crossover. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's why. Yes. Physically, you do.
Yes.
Right. Mentally, you do. But like in terms of like property to property, in terms of like,
Yes.
as a medium.
Yes. As a methodology of combining two IPs as a crossover merging, I don't consider your boy Kong Ming a crossover.
Absolutely not. Right. And so therefore, like that's why like it's always kind of hard to try and justify crossovers, because it's like you could then say like, oh, I'm just gonna bring one character in here and then call it a crossover. That's the laziness part in terms of like, well, then why don't we just put Mario in Pokemon?
I mean, Smash Brothers says hi.
Yeah.
They literally did that.
Yeah, that is I'm talking about like if Mario was Ash Ketchum, and he actually went around and Yahoo and threw a fucking Pokeball.
I don't even want to. I'm imagining that. I'm just like, oh, that's gonna be so bad.
Fans would fucking like throw up a hissy fit, right?
I will throw up a hissy fit. I think that's really dumb.
Yeah, it's understanding that like it's not just down to whether or not the properties are popular themselves. It's also understanding your target audience too.
Yeah.
Right. People who love Mario for certain things. People who love Pokemon for certain things. But the world of Super Smash Brothers has nothing to do with either property, right?
Mhm.
You're not jumping on mushrooms and breaking bricks to get fire flowers, and you're also not throwing Pokeballs to catch stuff, right?
For the items. No, I know what
to
you're saying. I know
progress-
what you're
yeah,
saying. I know what you're saying.
yeah.
I'm not trying to. I'm
See,
sorry.
this is the level of pedantry that I expected from you.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Fucking pedant. But you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I
right?
know exactly where you're coming
So
from.
like this is where like when you try and create a crossover, you have to also understand whether or not what you're trying to do is going to work for your audience. And the other thing as well, who is your target audience, right? If you're making a Naruto and Bleach crossover, let's say,
that makes sense.
are you targeting both audiences? Are you trying to create a specific subsect of people who would like the idea of a crossover? Are you trying to branch into something completely new and maybe bring in new people into those particular ideas?
If I had to sell that idea to someone like a pitch, I would use the last reason.
Right?
Like, oh, it's a new subset of people, but within the same genre, so we can grab all of them at once, man.
Right? Like, are you going to call it like a Bankai Rasengan, like where you trying to create something completely different? I think that if you have enough brand loyalty with a specific series, specific studios and whatnot, you would probably have fans who are just not open to that idea, right? If you were to take out Demon Slayer characters and put them into Bleach, fans of UFO Table would be pretty annoyed because then you would be using Piero's world. You'd be using Piero's animation style. Whereas, like, Demon Slayer from UFO Table. And to see Demon Slayer in any other format would just be kind of sacrilegious. It's different for the Fate series. This is still Fate.
No, I understand. Especially when Fate series, by its kind of concept, is meant to have these iterations, right? These generations.
Yeah.
So it makes sense within the context of the canon. I just remembered a random crossover video game that is related to anime. Have you heard of Professor Layton?
Yes, of course.
So there's a Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney game that I just remembered that existed, and it was like pretty good. So I just got reminded when you were talking about target audience, because very clearly I could argue Professor Layton and Ace Attorney has, like overlaps, right?
If you want to talk about like video games that like have this is a video game that has absolutely no overlap, but Super Mario RPG is one of the best RPGs of all time.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Like,
a lot.
there's absolutely no reason to include any Final Fantasy characters into the Mario world, or even have Mario being designed by Square Enix, or I think it was called Square back then. Actually, it was called Square.
Squaresoft.
Squaresoft, yes. Like, absolutely no fucking reason for that to exist, but it did, and it was awesome. And it was great. And I would love to see more of that. But we never will. So I'm going to replay Super Mario RPG all over again. Right? But that, yeah. So when you have, like, diehard fans that will always support the respective properties, and you create something to try and bridge them together, like, you're going to expect, or like, you will experience some friction. You will experience, like, people just saying, like, no, like, this is not what I want. I want to keep Naruto as Naruto. I don't want to introduce Naruto into the world of Bleach and whatnot.
I mean, if I had to go by sort of my gut feeling, you either have to be very compatible in that, it makes sense that if you add this and add this as a crossover. Like, if you were to tell me Baki and Kengan Ashura, I can at least see it, right? Envision it. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but at least I can be like, okay, that kind of, I guess, makes sense, right? But either that, or it has to be completely, as you said with Super Mario RPG, completely unrelated, such that you wouldn't even conceive of it, but then it turned out to be great, right? I feel like it has to be either of those two extremes, because if it's anything in the middle, someone at some point is going to complain.
Yep.
Or you are not going to get the success that you think you would by combining two successful things.
And but at the same time, I feel like if you were in the business to create that kind of thing, you probably wouldn't care all that much about that kind of sentiment, in which they probably should, because the number one consumer of your shit are your fans.
Yeah.
You piss off your fans, then you got no product to sell.
Exactly.
And then speaking on the production committees and whatnot, I think the major issue here, let's say we do get through all the legal loopholes. Let's say you do actually manage to get the rights, or at least share the rights to create something between the two universes. Who gets what? How much money do you get? How much money do you get to fork over? Right? let's say the heads of SNK and the heads of Capcom come together. Let's make this game. We want 40%. You guys get 20%, and then the rest of the studios underneath get 10% each. Wait. Why do we only get 20%? You get 40.
I mean, that's why
because you're using more of our characters.
That's why it's so hard, because it's negotiations.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, then you get 40 and we get 20, but we get to say which studios work on it. Why? Because our character engines are more advanced and we need to get more people in. No. But then your characters, your studios have never worked on our character designs. How are we going to make sure that it's faithful to how our characters look?
Right.
Logistics is another thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yes, you do have studios like Cloverworks and A1 coming together, or you have different studios.
I mean, that makes sense because it's under the same umbrella, right? It's like Science Saru and Aniplex. Is it? No, sorry, Toho.
Yeah, but it's like, it's two separate studios coming together and co-producing one IP,
which is not a crossover of animation studios, but not a crossover of the anime.
Right? Now, if you were to then say two different studios who worked on two different things, and you had to mash those two different things together, that is where it's like...
Okay, well, I got the perfect solution. Are you ready? Okay, so who did Baki? What was the animation studio?
I can look that up.
Okay, and Kengan Ashura was... Okay, let's just say Baki Animation Studio and Kengan Ashura Animation Studio, okay? So the perfect arrangement is we will do Baki X...
Baki was TMS.
Okay, TMS Entertainment, and Kengan Ashura... It was a 3D company, right?
It's not Polygon.
Okay, I was about to say. I thought it was.
Larks.
Okay. I don't think I've heard it a lot.
You've heard of it because of Kengan Ashura.
Okay, my bad.
Usually Larks Entertainment, the only things they've done are... they've done a Tekken anime before. Otherwise, it's Kengan Ashura.
It's funny that you said Tekken, because there was a Street Fighter Cross Tekken video game, and they were going to make Tekken Cross Street Fighter. So I was going to use that concept, like Baki and Kengan Ashura in the Baki universe, and then Kengan Ashura X crossover with Baki in the Kengan Ashura universe. So it's like you both have, your time to shine.
Yeah.
But which one is better, or which execution is better, is dependent on those studios then.
Well, at that point, production company ego was at stake.
Yeah, but I feel like... even though I think that would be almost really hard to do because it's a large investment.
It's at your quote-unquote, like, the most fair.
Yeah, the
for
most
both sides,
equal, right? Yeah. But, I don't know, like, Yakitate Japan and Shogugeki no Soma.
That would be dope. That would be really dope. I would love to see that. I would love to see the way they can make sexy bread.
I mean, yeah. Look at those yeast, bro.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yo, that yeast bubbling.
Yeah. No, okay. Or like I eat it and then my clothes explode. Yeah, sure. So,
but in that same vein, right? Like, because people were saying that there was a lot of similarity in terms of the story of Toriko and how, like, the guy trying to acquire the ultimate recipe is in the same way that Luffy and his band of pirates are trying to acquire the One Piece, right? So therefore, it's like you could see why that bridge existed in the first place. But then why did you throw in Dragon Ball in there? Is it because they needed to get the 7 balls? It's 7, right?
7.
Yeah, right? So they all have that one aim. That could have actually worked. That could have been something that, like, if you were in a parallel universe and it was just Goku, Luffy, and Toriko dude there, like, they somehow the ultimate recipe is tied to the 7 balls, which are then tied to the One Piece, because when you put the 7 balls together,
it becomes One Piece.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe that could have been something that they could have worked, but they clearly didn't, and that's why that crossover fucking failed.
You only hear about it because it either succeeds or failed.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that sounds like, oh, when you kill people, they die, Jason. Thank God you said the obvious. But it really is. Either it's
the same thing where, like, bad news is good news. As long as you're in the news, that's something that works out for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's essentially what it is. And unfortunately, the bad news is so bad that, like, Toriko just never survived. It just never managed to.
And I think that's so crazy. Because that was the fallout. That's what happened.
this is what a crossover is meant to do in terms of being able to bridge things together and also drive your respective fan bases. But what it ended up doing was alienating their own fan bases in terms of, man, you guys are just fumbling this big property. And in the end, viewership dropped, readership dropped, and then Toriko just kind of whimpered, even though it sold millions of copies. That's the thing. Toriko, I think, has sold over 30 million copies of manga. It is one of the most popular manga series in terms of sales.
That you've probably never heard of.
And there's a reason for it. It just didn't have that lasting effect because of all these concerted efforts to try and keep pushing this hype train by forcing crossovers. It was just unnecessary. Whether or not like it was going to die with or without the crossover, I don't know. It was already on its way downhill anyway.
Yeah.
Much in the same way that Bleach was also as well at the time. But hey, like you at least maybe can credit them for trying, I suppose.
I mean, that's all I can really do. But as someone,
the only thing you can do. Yeah.
And as someone who's like very far removed from those IPs as of right now, I kind of just don't care. I'm not saying that if you are a fan that you should not care or you should care. I'm just saying that like, oh, crossover, I just hear that, I'll be like, okay, cool. Or, wow, that's really weird. TMNT and freaking Naruto. But okay, whatever. Like, it doesn't ruin my appreciation of Naruto, the series, and technically does not ruin my own appreciation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I watched it.
Why not? Let's get into it then. I mean, again, for the second episode running, we are not going to have a break because I think we're on a really good, train of thought.
But we
here.
will credit
yes.
the break music people.
So back onto why this whole thing started. Just like how you were talking about video games that spurred into why the anime industry is crumbling and we're all going to die. I'm exaggerating, of course, but much in the same way of that. When I was reading this, I actually read the first volume of Naruto and
TMNT.
So interestingly,
published by IDW Publishing and Viz Media, by the way.
Yes, and much in the same way that we were saying Baki X Kengan Ashura, and it's on the Baki style.
Yo, they did it both?
It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cross Naruto. So it seems that IDW is the more sort of like in the forefront because it's a very like Americanized like comic style.
Okay.
Which for some reason kind of actually works with how Naruto and his team of ninjas are also presented. It's not bad. And I say that with like better than nothing, right? At the same time, though, what I'm really confused about is who is it for? If you're a Naruto fan, I would have seen this as like the least expected crossover of all time, right? Yes, we have seen Naruto in Fortnite, and we have seen like other characters in different games and whatnot, but that's more like for skins and for like random bits of fan service.
I mean, going off of that, did you know that Street Fighter and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a random crossover as well, where you can buy their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle costume in Street Fighter 6?
Yeah.
Like why?
Nostalgia, fan service.
But I think a lot of people, like a lot of like YouTubers and stuff, were like, I mean, it's not like a bad idea, but what the hell are you thinking?
It don't make no sense, right?
Yeah.
It's a cash grab, it's a marketing ploy, but at the same time, it's like
it's harmless.
If you were to tell me that, like, and a new thing we added to Street Fighter is that now you can buy character skins from Teenage Mutant Turtles, that wouldn't change my decision of whether I buy it or not. It would legitimately just be like, okay, I guess this is a thing. It exists purely to exist. In the way of looking at TNNT crossed over with Naruto, I don't know. I really don't know who it's for, because I never thought I would see. And not to say that like the two fan bases can't cross over, right? You could easily be. I mean, I loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was a kid, but not so much for like the comics and the cartoons. It was for the games.
Yeah,
the games were
Turtles
great.
in Time.
Fucking
my
awesome.
favorite.
Cowabunga, dude. But it's like, you're gonna Cowabunga and Pizza Time with Naruto Uzumaki now?
I mean, I also like the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Very weird.
Fair game. Oh wait, no, the old ones, right?
The very, very
Yes,
old ones,
okay.
like with Vanilla Ice.
I was gonna
and
say for a
Secret
minute,
of
it's
the Ooze.
I was like, those are fantastic. Those
Yeah.
were great.
Those that and the video games was
Say what you want about original Street Fighter movie. The first one was fucking good with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh right, yeah, that is true.
I loved it, even though it was actually really terrible
And it was really weird. Yeah,
like none of the characters actually were there.
Kylie Minogue was Cammy.
Yeah. I forgot who was not Dhalsim.
Bison.
Yeah, who was Bison?
I think he passed away, but Raj starts with R. I butchered it.
1994. Damn. Raul Julia.
Yeah, there you go. Starts with R. That I got it right. But yeah,
Oh yeah, and also Ming-Na Wen as Chun-Li.
Oh right, yes. I mean, she's in Marvel now.
Hearts, big hearts. Yep.
So, look, at the end of the day, though, I think that anime, manga crossovers, like novel, whatever you say, is generally kind of an uncommon occurrence in comparison, especially to Western media.
Yeah. Let's set aside like the whole business talk about.
Yes, let's do that.
Let's oh, of course it's going to be hard because it's illegal to do it, or like because it's hard to produce certain things.
Yeah, but it's our podcast, so we get.
So let's say like fuck all that, right? Like, let's say like creative freedoms and whatnot, right?
You saw my examples, did you?
Yeah, I did, absolutely. That's why I want to get into that.
Okay, let's go.
Because it's like because with the fact that like there are crossovers, but not so much like within the sphere of Japanese media, right?
Mhm.
Kengan Ashura Baki is an anomaly, but it also makes sense because it was under the Netflix umbrella, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Naruto is a cross of East meets West. Then you also have like Naruto and Fortnite, One Piece, and Jujutsu Kaisen having like installments at Universal Hollywood and all that. Those things work, but that's because it's not Japanese on Japanese media collaboration. It's more like overseas expansions and whatnot, right? And it might be great. It might be because we all know how popular One Piece and JJK are in America or even in the West. The fact that
How about let's just say the world?
Yeah, whenever I watch fucking like any soccer game, I expect that like one out of those 3 games, there's gonna be a player that when they score a goal, they're gonna pop the Jujutsu Kaisen pose.
Really?
Yes, it happens fairly often.
I did. I mean, maybe because I don't watch a game, so I don't.
There's also a lot of people who do back in the when I say back in the late 2010s, which was only 5 years ago, 6 years ago. People would pop the
2010s is 5 years ago. You mean 15 years ago?
Well, all the way from 2010 to 2019.
Oh,
right?
my bad. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
The world existed before COVID. Jason.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, there were people who would, Sasageo. They would pull out the AOT.
Oh yeah. The salute, yes,
Yeah.
100%.
They would do that, right?
Or the Luffy pose.
Yes, that one's a.
That literally happened in the Olympics.
That one happened. That one's a good one too. Or there would be people like, for example, that running back who will always be like, "Oh, I am the hidden Kazakage of the hood," whatever it is. He would always do some Naruto reference. He would like whenever it's like, "Oh, Sean Jackson, Idaho University," that kind of thing, where they introduce themselves and like their position and their name. He would go in there with like the Hidden Village headband and say some Kazakage shit. It was awesome. It was really cool.
I mean, that does sound pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And don't forget as well the Chargers when they released their schedule one year and they did.
God, that was so beautiful.
That was so cool, especially when someone
that was for us, actually, of all people.
That is a good crossover,
and that was because it's
the
only
San Diego Chargers at the time before they became the. I don't remember if they were San Diego or LA.
I don't know.
I think it might have been San Diego, but when they did that, an anime that's like. Dude, it could have been goofy as fuck. It could have been lame. But the fact that they got all the nostalgia and the fan service points down to a T.
That's because we love it because we were the target audience. I think there was a lot of people that just didn't get it.
You just knew somebody on their marketing team had Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Somebody has a Mal account.
Yeah.
I want to know who they are. Because I want to
shake their hand.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? But okay, so let's say, again, becomes the fan fiction part of the show. If we had essentially no legal repercussions or consequences, no need to worry about like any of the money and the budget, like in a hypothetical,
We're
right?
just straight up sandboxing this.
Yes.
Right?
I wrote 3 examples, and I could have written more, but those were the 3 that really stood out. I wrote those 3 really fast. So the first one was Slam Dunk and Kuroko no Basket. I think that's hilarious because one is super technical and serious, and the other one is superheroes playing basketball.
So you might as well then do like Blue Lock and Aowashi as well.
Oh, 100%.
But then, like, how would you fine tune that balance of, okay, because Kuroko no Blue Lock and Aowashi, there's some level of realism between the two in the sense that like, it's not like the Blue Lock people have like superpowers.
Yeah, it's not like Captain Tsubasa where like I kick a ball and it becomes like 8 of them.
Yeah. Right. Whereas like Kuroko no Basket is more like
it's literal Dragon Ball basketball.
Yeah. Right. So how would you sort of fine tune that level of balance between the two properties?
There can only be one way, which is you make Kuroko no Basket realistic like Slam Dunk, and Slam Dunk can never do Dragon Ball shit.
So what you're saying is they just play basketball.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I find it hilarious.
Dude, but like, you would at least just want to see like how that would play out, right?
Yeah.
Great.
And then we spend over like 100 episodes on that one game because that's how Slam Dunk rolls.
I have an interesting one.
Okay, shoot.
I would like to put 2 properties, both very, very popular.
Sure.
Insanely popular.
Okay.
And they're old as fuck series as well.
Okay.
I mean, one of the mangas is from 1994.
Okay.
And, one I'm thinking about in the late 90s or no, early 2000s. I would like to take the main character of the 2 main characters of Monster,
Okay.
Johann Liebert and Kenzo Tenma,
Okay.
and put them in Death Note.
Okay. I think it's pretty easy. You just write their names in Death Note and they die.
No, but they're geniuses. They're way smarter than L and Kira.
Light.
Well, I mean, I actually do.
Speaking of crossovers, Light shows up in Death Parade, by the way.
Oh, I've been seeing that pop up recently. I've been seeing that pop up. I would like to see that because then it's like because Tenma and Johan, they spend the whole series of the manga just one
globetrotting.
One is killing everybody.
Yes.
And the other one is trying to kill that one person
who is killing everybody.
But in the sense here where it's like one is the hero, clearly Tenma, but he's also like doing things the wrong way.
So Tenma is L in this situation?
That's where I need to figure out. Who would be L and who would be Kira? Would you put Johan as
100%.
Kira?
100%. And Light, yeah.
But then that would make Johan like the main character.
Yeah.
The main anti-protagonist.
Well, isn't Light an anti-hero to start?
Johan wasn't the anti-hero.
No. Yeah, of course. But we're trying to make it work, right?
Yeah. So how would you make it work in this sense? Because like Tenma would be L.
That's the only one that can make sense to me.
Yeah,
of the 2. I mean, there's not many combinations there, right?
Because there's one thing that connects Johan and Light. It's not the fact that they both have L's in their name, Johan Liebert and Light Yagami. It's the fact that both of them are fucking mass murderers.
and like just in many ways evil people. Yeah.
Oh, it absolutely makes sense because
if we
Light has Misa, right?
Yes.
Johan has a sister.
Yeah, but Misa is not family related. But cult related, I guess, if you want to go that way. Right?
A cult's just a family, right?
Fucking what? Okay.
I drank the Kool-Aid, Jason. I'm sorry.
Shit. Incest is wincest, I guess. Sure.
Hey. We're talking about family here, okay? We're talking about cults.
Did I stutter? Did I fucking stutter?
There's another one you put in here, which is I honestly think it makes sense that it would be cool to see, which is Claymore and Berserk.
I think it would be dope. I think it would be stupid, but I think it would be fucking dope.
The problem is, though, I think with this is like who would
no one. But this is the point, right?
Yeah.
We're having no holds barred, right?
Most of the time, whenever you see these kinds of crossovers, too, right? Like
It's just like
for fun,
wish fulfillment.
much like Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, but Jason and Freddy Krueger and Jason is dope.
Yeah, that's why people wanted to see them fucking kill each other.
That's why Alien and Predators is dope.
That's why people wanted to see them kill each other.
Yeah, it's great.
Does it make sense? Absolutely fucking not. But hey,
No. Apparently it does. Apparently.
oh, with Alien Predator.
No, I don't know because they were movies. So apparently they made it work. I'm not saying it's good that they try to make it work, but they technically attempted to make it work.
I
right?
think like in terms of like Claymore and Berserk, though, it makes absolute sense. Why, if there was a world where crossovers were commonplace, that actually would be a really cool isekai novel.
Yeah.
I reincarnate in a world where crossovers were commonplace, and then you just see characters from every other. Oh man, that would be a fucking legal nightmare for anybody who wants to.
That's
write
why no
that.
one will do it.
Yeah, but like the fact that you have like main characters who are like they've been fucked over, they've been fucking downtrodden, but they are also like they got that big ass sword.
Yes. Okay. So let me explain Berserk and Claymore. So first of all, I think the both of them are of the same era, right? Second of all, like roughly, I would say.
I can double check.
Yeah.
I'm sure, but like I want to see. I actually want to see. Like,
I mean, obviously,
how
Berserk
far.
is still ongoing now. Obviously,
Oh, and also, we're seeing the Berserk manga and the Claymore manga
yes,
crossover,
yes,
right? Because
yes,
if it's
yes.
the anime,
no.
that'll be
Shut up.
the
No,
worst thing I've seen.
The manga,
Claymore anime also looks kind of shit, but I would absolutely
but,
read.
but I think the Claymore manga fared better, in my opinion, than obviously Berserk in 2016 or whatever.
Oh, never mind. They were not even close. They were over a decade apart.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, Berserk was 1989, and Claymore was 2001.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
But I always feel like they have the same vibe, right?
Because it's dark fantasy.
Yeah. And one is a dude and the other one is about a bunch of Claymore women. I just feel like it just kind of gels well.
The genres and themes for Claymore are action, adventure, fantasy, horror, and gore. Berserk is
Depression.
action, adventure. I'm not even going to say award-winning. It's not fair to say that. But yeah, action, adventure, drama, fantasy, horror, supernatural, gore, psychological, mythological.
And I'll be honest, I just want to see Claymore fucking ruin Griffith. That'd just be like great.
Oh, spoilers, dude. I haven't read it yet. No, I know what happens in it. Like, there's enough time that's gone by with it. It's
Yeah, that's
more
why I
of a-
looked at you like, are you fucking serious?
No,
No,
I
no.
haven't read all of Berserk yet.
No, I haven't either, but like
But people know.
we know.
People
Come
know.
on. Okay.
But that would be like the one that if there ever were to be a crossover, that one would be the easiest to do.
Completely.
In terms of like the tone, the aesthetic, like you said, right? The reason why you thought it was like similar decade is the fact that they look very okay. I'm not saying that the art styles are the same because there's going to be a lot of Berserk fans. They'll be like, "Fuck you, you can't say that."
And I mean,
But-
Berserk art is fucking fantastic. What I'm saying is more like the vibe, the tone, the grim, dark, almost somewhat realistic in the sense that it's grounded.
Yeah.
And it's just pure suffering and like hopelessness and just people trying but will always fail. Like I just feel like that is just both of them in the nutshell. They're like two peas in a pod.
I think if there ever was to be a Berserk crossover with Claymore, I would absolutely read. Okay, look, if it was even just like a 1-volume exclusive, I would read the fuck out of that. Absolutely.
Like Guts just be like, "Yo, I'm sitting at this bar. Like, so what's your deal?" And then she goes like, "Yo, let me tell you a story." And that one season just goes on. I think I like actually now that I put it that way, I want it to happen.
It has to. Okay, when I say has to, it's wish fulfillment. It's what it is. I would love to see that.
Okay. Do you have another one? Like,
No, I do want to go on to the next one because like this is one that like you and I both absolutely think would be awesome.
did you actually think about this one?
No, I didn't. But now that I see it, it's like
I
you-
think
you're-
Steel Ball Run. By the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one that I'm talking about is Redline and JoJo Steel Ball Run, which I think is part 7, which is right after Stone Ocean. Come on. They are racing.
Fans would absolutely lose their shit over that.
And I think the style of Redline is very JoJo-esque. Right?
It's insane. It's what it is. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like weird, quirky. They all are flamboyant wearing. Like, it's just very much that style. I think there is one that I did not put down here because I want to surprise you. You ready for this?
Go for it.
So imagine you are at a concert. And then Bocchi the Rock shows up. Plays their set.
I was thinking,
and you were like,
because I was looking up some anime series and I saw Bocchi Rock, and I think there must be some sort of collapse.
And then yeah, sure, okay, she does her thing, and then the lights go out, and K-On shows the fuck up, and then they all grab milkshakes together. So actually, the anime is not about the concert; it's about the milkshake.
Okay.
Because it's slice of life as fuck. And Bocchi has anxiety, so she doesn't talk to anybody.
And there's guitars.
And there's guitars and bass and drums and vocals. And it's just going to be like the best time ever.
I got 2 more for you.
Yeah, sure. Lay it on me.
One is more like a guilty pleasure, and more is one like I just want to torture myself.
Sure.
So what I would love to do is see another one of those high-stakes game kind of futuristic series in the ilk of No Game No Life. So imagine the world of No Game No Life, not No Game No Life Zero, because that one is massively depressing. Nobody should, like, everybody should watch it, but nobody should watch it.
Right.
It's not Bokurano level, but it's still really fucked up. Now imagine the world of No Game No Life. The gods and goddesses are still there. The games are still there.
You play the games, right? Humans are at the very bottom.
But instead of, your Brocon Syscon pairing,
yes, not blank, right? Yeah,
you get Yumeko Jabami from Kakegurui.
You see, I wouldn't do that. I would put Kakegurui and Kaiji together.
See, that's the sensible option, because then it becomes really high stakes. But what I want to see is
just horniness with games. Bro. Is that what it is?
What else do you want me to say?
I don't know.
It's also just the fact that it's like you already have this Brocon Syscon thing going on, and there's just a whole lot of titty. Why not add another pair?
Oh, Jesus.
Like, you would just be like watching these goddesses trying to outsmart and outgame Jabami, but Jabami's just like, oh, punish me more. I love this. I love losing.
Let's play Russian roulette. Yeah.
And then the girl, and then everyone in the world is like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with this chick, dude? And I'm a god. I can't handle her. Like, imagine like that word association game where it's like you have to match stuff, or else like you lose, you can't breathe and whatnot. Imagine like Jabami gets off of that, because she goes through some serious physical torture throughout her games, and she's just like euphoric. It would.
No, I'm thinking of so many things, but I don't want to say it out loud because it would be really bad.
It'd be an H series at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going in like those areas and thinking just some of the shenanigans, let's just say, that could ensue. Okay, I'm being nice over here and being very, PG over here. But yeah, it's gonna be. I don't know. Do you think you can mix something of 2 different genres? Because I think when we go by the ones that we just said, there is some commonality between those 2 properties, whether it is genre, tone, aesthetic, or the actual sport. With my Slam Dunk and Kuroko no Basket example, is there one that is just like, I'm gonna, or Yake Tote Japan and Shogeki no Soma being gourmet, but is there one that is just like, this and this should never work, but hear me out type scenario? I mean, it's really hard because I'm trying to think, right? That obviously that this exists because of fan fiction and doujinshis. That's why that there's a market. That's why there's Comic Cat every year, because of these types of arguments. That's why YouTube videos of Superman versus Goku is still relevant and people still talk about it to this day, is because these kinds of theory crafting is something that when you finish the series or when you have nothing else to watch or consume of that series, you start, pushing your two action figures together and see who will win, right?
Yeah. In terms of like a genre clash or in terms of like a thematic clash, I had to really think about it. But I do want to throw out one more before we get into that discussion.
Sure.
This one is another sort of like guilty pleasure, but also more like I want to see like something a little more gritty.
Yeah.
Violet Evergarden's song, in which Violet Evergarden is the titular character of Vivi Floret Eye's song. Where instead of going around and spreading happiness to solve this time loop conundrum, she has to go around and deliver letters. But every time she goes and delivers letters, people actually end up becoming more and more depressed, and the future timeline gets even more and more shattered, and it's just an endless loop of torture.
This is you're projecting. You're doing your own thing at this point.
I'm in a cage, Jason. I gotta be set free.
I mean, I think, for example, Kaiju number 8 and like a Sentai or anything would
It's
kind
too
of
easy.
It's too easy,
It's
right?
too easy. Or even like Go-Go Loser Ranger and Kaiju number 8. It's the fact
Or
that-
Power Rangers,
Yeah,
for that matter.
right?
The thing that it is parodying, right?
Yeah, it's the whole Sentai thing. It's the whole like live action Japanese phenomena that we all grew up on in the 80s and the 90s. So whenever you see like a Godzilla and you see like Power Rangers morphing into their Morphzoid or whatever it is, those things have existed for like decades and like, before most listeners were alive.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to go through my anime list right now and trying to see if anything stands out to me. But I think if we keep doing this, we're just gonna keep dragging.
Dude, we got time, man. We've only been recording for an hour and a half.
I like how when we say that, we're like, oh yeah, that's not a lot, right?
Not a lot at all. I'm sorry, but like we've been doing this too long. We know exactly how
Can I
this
actually
goes.
ask you a more serious question about crossovers, which is, would you do a crossover of a property that has already finished its run, whether it's anime and like for example, let's say One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100. So Mob Psycho is finished, done and dusted. But then you take One Punch Man.
I wouldn't do that simply because it's still too recent. However, if, for example, Mob Psycho 100 had finished, like, say, 10, maybe 15 years ago...
And then you revive it.
Then I would. Because then there is a point of reason there that you want to revive this or you want to bring back the nostalgia. I think that Mob Psycho is still too recent in people's history. And also the fact that it's still like phenomenal. I mean, I haven't finished Season 3 yet. It wouldn't make sense to do it right now. But if there was enough of a gap between when it ended and when you want to cross it over, yeah, I would absolutely do it. But that would be really cool. Mob and One Punch Man, Saitama. That would be pretty cool to see. But again, it's still in that similar ilk of same but different, right? It's still kind of similar genres. It's still two people who are insanely OP, except that one's OP with his hands, one's OP with his brain.
I mean, this is really tough because I'm trying to now put two things together that would not make sense on the surface. So by definition, it would be difficult, right, to make it work. I'm trying real hard right now. Oh, dude, sorry. Nope, don't have it. Do you have anything? You look like you're making a face like you have something. I don't know.
It's obviously just like a random sort of mixture, but imagine restaurant isekai.
Yeah.
Right?
Restaurant to Another World, yeah. Dope.
But one of those restaurants is a coffee shop set in the world of Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
And you just have to serve coffee to ghouls.
And they're wearing masks all the time. It's kind of I don't get it either, but hey, whatever, right?
Yeah. But in that sense then you would
No, actually that wouldn't work out. How can the ghouls eat? It can only be coffee.
That's what I'm saying. It's a coffee shop.
Oh, fuck.
So it would be
like a literal,
Yeah.
like just coffee, not coffee shop like we all know and love.
And they can eat. It's just that they cannot ingest and properly stomach it.
Well, I mean,
hey, a human can't have babies with a ghoul, but they managed to make it happen.
Okay. Spoiler alert.
Okay, true. Yes, that one was a bit egregious. I'm sorry.
Well, what about the Ancient Magus' Bride and Harry Potter, for God's sakes, or Little Witch Academia? That's like obvious, right? But it'll be like, oh God, I need to find. I swear on my life, I need to drag this episode out until I find something that is just so dumb and wild, but it somehow makes sense.
How about the girl from Bunny Girl Senpai in the place of Haruhi Suzumiya?
Yeah, but I can at least see the through line because Harumi Suzumiya is like wild in concept and execution, and Bunny Girl Senpai is all about each of those girls having a different, I guess you could say, quirk or situation, right? Yeah. To overcome their trauma. So I can still, again, I'm trying to like figure out, is there a possible way to marry two properties in like the most okay, you're laughing.
Okay, neither of us have watched Rainbow, but we know what Rainbow is about.
Oh, about the prison, guy, yeah, the guys, yeah.
Rainbow, but in prison school.
Yeah, but it's still there's still the prison kind of connection.
But they're just trying to get out. They're not going to succumb to any of the advances of the student council.
Yeah, but I want to.
Then just watch Prison School.
Yeah, okay, I guess. Oh God, I mean, do you think that crossovers? One of the reasons why, at least in Japanese media, that we don't see a lot of, is also because either the combination will never work, or it's so obvious that why don't we just do our own thing instead?
I mean, that's why we see parallels of it in American crossovers, right? Where it's like Family Guy and Simpsons. Yeah, they're both cartoonic styles. Yeah, they're a bit moronic and all that. Yeah, they make kind of toilet humor jokes every now and then, right? So, but you could make a case for having characters from The Simpsons set in the Family Guy world and vice versa.
Yeah.
But then you also have like series where like a character just shows up. It's like, this absolutely makes no fucking sense. Why are you doing this? And that's why I think like when it comes to Japanese crossovers, you would imagine that given how stringent their IP laws are, that even if they were to be a bit loose, that production companies would want to play it safe. Therefore, it would be genre to genre kind of similar.
And also because they won't see the need. That's what I think, right?
Yeah, if you want to see more of that stuff, just watch more of our stuff. You don't need to see us try and collaborate with another person.
Or just buy doujinshis.
Yeah.
Because that's their own thing, and we'll just let it be.
Yeah, and more often than not, like, doujinshis are more sort of, like, based on, like, fan fulfillment, right? Being able to see, like, another side of a story that might not have been told based on how the creator wanted to tell the story in the first place, right? It's more like, you know, what happens if Naruto actually ended up with Sakura, yeah, that kind of thing, right? But it's still held within the same continuum.
Like the canon in terms of the logic of it all, like it makes sense, but it would be like a different scenario or a different timeline or whatever, right?
And then you would also have things where it's like, in terms of like the wackiness and whatnot, even if the genres themselves are not the same, it still kind of would make sense if you were to put the two together. Like, for example, if you were to have the Straw Hat Pirates from One Piece, but they're playing football in the world of Aishul 21. Same thing, in the sense that like you have this guy who has crazy laser precision eyes and like is able to navigate through fucking through crowds and get to the touchstone. You have people who have like stretchy like monkey arms that can be able to catch balls and whatnot. You have a guy at the back who's got a cannon of an arm no matter what. He's also a hothead. You have those kinds of character archetypes that exist in One Piece as well. So when you mash those two together, yeah, like you obviously see differences in that one have literal superpowers and the other are just a very, very, very good American football team. But it wouldn't be that hard to see them try and mesh them together.
Really? I mean, I feel like it would be a bit of a stretch. Like, I can see
like
where
Luffy,
you're coming
like
from.
Luffy,
Oh, fuck.
right?
Wow. I fell into that one. But I don't know, dude. Like, at the end of the day...
It would not be a series. It'd be a one-off episode.
I mean, if you do that, by that logic, you can literally do anything at that point.
Try.
Right. But I don't know.
No. I was like, try right now, right? It's hard, but at least with those two, there is some semblance of commonality in the sense that both of them are wacky in their in exuberating like a level of overpoweredness.
Do you think there's ever been a situation where there's a crossover where one of the properties was considered far, far inferior, and some would say bad, like a low mal rating, but the crossover made it in such a way that it enhanced that IP, and actually in that crossover iteration, it was actually done super well. So it wasn't necessarily the elements of the bad series crossover that was the problem, but the execution of it. Do you know what I'm kind of trying to say?
Would you say that any of the isekais and isekai quartet were less popular and it only grew in popularity after isekai quartet? Because all the
Ooh, actually, that's a good point. Yeah,
because all of them started off super popular, right? ReZero, Overlord, Konosuba, Tanya the Evil.
right.
There was really no need to sort of mess with the recipe there.
But I was just wondering, is there any one situation where like one of them is clearly outclassed, but then because they decided to do a crossover, it somehow revived that that series?
I don't know. I mean, like I'm just looking up like some lists of anime crossovers that have existed. So, for example, like Fairy Tail and Rave, like
Rave.
oh, the one the Rave Master.
What?
You ever seen like the manga where there's a snowman with like an orange cone nose? If I show it to you, you'll know exactly what I mean, unless of course you haven't come across it. But
I mean, this is coming from a person who did not know about the OP and Death Note.
you don't know this?
No,
Oh, okay.
I legit don't know.
Well, Rave Master is done by the same person that did Fairy Tail,
Huh.
and there was a crossover of that.
Dude, what happens if Natsume Book of Friends met Mushishi?
I think it will go one of two ways. Either everybody is cured of their ailments because why not just be friends, or everyone is cursed. I would like to see the latter.
Okay.
Other collabs that have happened, Lupin the Third and Detective Conan. But again,
I mean, that makes sense,
too
though.
similar, right? And then of course you have like the classic like Cyborg 009 and Devilman because it's done by the same guy,
Yeah.
right?
Like if it's your own IP, no, sorry, if it's your own creation, it's easier, way easier to put them two together because you're the creator, right? So
apparently there was a crossover between Gundam and Hello Kitty.
I believe it.
Yeah, it was in celebration of Gundam's 40th anniversary and Hello Kitty's 45th anniversary.
Yeah, but that would be like a vanity model that you can kind of, that will look cool or look quirky, but not as like a series, right? Like you can't literally have Hello Kitty politics.
Okay,
and
I'm just gonna read the entry on CBR. Yeah,
Sure.
Hey, another shout out to CBR. Despite
There you
how
go.
much shit we give you sometimes. For the plebs thinking that they just read something wrong or there must be something clerical or there's some sort of like typing error going on, no. The higher ups of anime have dictated the most ambitious crossover event ever to be witnessed by otaku eyes. Now, this article was posted in 2020, and apparently within recent weeks of that being posted, basically sometime in 2019, 2020, the two series of Gundam and Hello Kitty crossed paths in a special crossover O&A that would have everyone's favorite Japanese cat help out some giant robots to end a great intergalactic battle. Hello Kitty literally tries to stop the mean giant robots from fighting. There is no good reason why anybody should not hunt this special piece of media down. I beg to differ. I am not watching that because you know how that's going to turn out. It is just... Again, like you said, it's like a centerpiece between two massive fan bases, and they just made it because why not celebrate their anniversaries at the same time? I don't care.
Like it's
that.
just an excuse
Yeah.
at that point, right?
Yeah. But going on to like the thing you mentioned before, where if you had two very, very different series in terms of tonality, in terms of theme, in terms of genre, that's where I think the creative the innovativeness would have to really like go into hyperdrive, because how could you sort of bridge a rom-com into a dark fantasy? How could you bring a sci-fi into a slice of life? It's especially when it's things that are super entrenched within their specific genres.
I guess, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, one of the downsides of crossovers is, hey, sometimes that combination would just suck. It's just not a good idea.
It just wouldn't work.
Like, it just wouldn't work.
It would take too much time.
Or it just wouldn't work, period. Like, there's not even any discussion there. It's just like, if you put the two together, it's almost like it's just not going to work. I don't know. But at the end of the day, whenever I think of crossovers, I only think of within two realms, which is apparel and comics, for the most part. You know, I don't think of Japanese anime mangas generally as crossovers. Now, of course, they exist, as we mentioned in here several times with Isekai Quartet and all that. But I never really considered it like, oh, crossovers are a huge-ass thing. Now, when you say you marry it with advertisement, like, for example, when Blue Lock Season 2 came out, and at least in Hong Kong, they had the Nissan Cup Noodles, like, cross-promotion. But that is not a crossover in the sense of a show. It's a crossover in the sense of product placement and cross-promotion, you know? So, like, I just don't think that anime really has a lot of these.
Or the need to.
I
mean, because historically, a lot of the crossovers that have happened are within the mediums that were created by one singular person or one singular company. Like, I didn't know this, but it absolutely makes sense that there was a crossover event between Inuyasha, Ranma Half, and Urusei Yatsura.
But that makes total sense, though.
Yeah, it's done by the same mangaka.
Yeah.
So each one got their own OVA, and then they had a crossover OVA where all three of them meet up. So it's like Inuyasha meet Ranma Half meet Urusei Yatsura, and then, yeah, mash it all together. There was also a My Next Life as a Villainess crossed over with Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagataro, crossed over with My Senpai is Annoying.
Will, I just discovered the best crossover in human history, and we need to fund this anime. Okay, you ready? I need to prepare myself. Free.
Okay.
The swimming,
yes,
boys, pseudo boys love thing.
Yes.
Keijo.
That's just Dick Fight Island.
Hear me out, Will. But they're on like a floaty thing.
That's just Dick Fight Island, bro.
but then they use their butts and their penises, man.
That's just Dick Fight Island, bro. You see, like,
this is degenerate. That's just degenerate at that point, right?
I'm looking at other lists of crossovers that happened. There was apparently one that was between Psyche K and Assassination Classroom. The Food Wars and Shonen Jump one was obvious because Food Wars is Shonen Jump. Yeah, I think, like, in terms of like the most classic, the most by definition
traditional, right?
Well, the most by the definition of a crossover itself would be Isekai Quartet.
Yeah,
I think that is
like quintessentially.
That is the clearest example, and it's not just like, oh, you brought one character in and you made one OVA, or you made like a small little mini arc, and then like that person or that character.
There's multiple seasons, and they added more properties into this fictional world.
Yeah, people liked it, and it worked. But it's also like, would you imagine that a Konosuba fan would like Tanya the Evil, would like Overlord, would like Shield Hero, would like Cautious Hero, would like I forgot the sixth one. I
mean, I kind of dig all of those, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it worked out and have multiple seasons, right? I think if I can wrap up my thoughts, is when we talk about crossovers in the sense of Japanese anime, manga, whatever, the only thing that I can say for sure is in the spirit of crossovers is when it is not, Will, your definition of crossovers, like Records of Ragnarok. Like, I would consider that the more typical variation or pattern of what crossovers
It
could be.
It's a Super Smash Brothers crossover.
Yeah. Or like they're in the same genre, so then they meet up and then they versus each other, like with Baki and Kengan Ashura. Like it would, or like, hey, we changed the medium such that it is, instead of all of them in light novels, all of them in manga form or something, or hey, instead of Fate Stay Night, them literally like fucking each other up and killing each other, they're cooking, because that's the crossover of genres, is marrying these two things together.
But in that sense, then, like, I would say like that example of using a crossover serves as one major thing, which is filler. It provides a break in terms of like one piece of work and another piece of work, and it's just like, hey, why don't we just do this for a bit, like cool off, and then move on to other things.
I mean, Isekai Quartet, in my opinion, despite actually thinking it's all right, I will not choose Isekai Quartet over Overlord or over Tanya or over Konosuba. So, of course, in my opinion, Isekai Quartet is always considered the lesser, the filler.
Would you say it's supplementary?
No. I mean because it's its own thing. You're just putting the same characters and copy and pasting them. And, of course, there'll be funny dynamics, character interactions. They will reference what happened in their own respective animes, or, like Subaru talks about this, which if you, watch season 2, you would understand, whatever, something like that, right? But, or like, for example, with Attack on Titan High School, for example, there is no killing in that sense, but their personalities are still extrapolated into a chibi high school form.
So here's another question I'll pose to you then, right? So you and I have both watched Konosuba, Overlord, Cautious Hero, ReZero, Rising the Shield Hero, Tanya the Evil. Having watched all of that, would you say then that because we watched all 6 of them, let's say originally the first 4, right?
Sure.
So we remove Shield Hero and Cautious Hero. Would you then say it's necessary to watch Isekai Quartet?
No.
Because I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
And you have, but you're also like, but you watched it for...
It's good, but it's just good.
You watched it because it's Isekai Quartet, not because, oh, I really, really liked Overlord and Konosuba, I gotta check this out.
Well, no, it is. The reason why I'm checking it out is because I like those properties, and I thought it would be kind of hilarious.
But in essence, it worked then, in terms of like being able to pique your interest because you had interest in those two.
Yeah,
I don't know how much you like Tanya Evil. I think
Tanya Evil's all right.
Yeah, and I also don't.
We
know
have a
how
friend
much
who really likes it.
Also, I mean, I know you don't like ReZero.
But at least I can respect the accolades that it has.
But it was also the fact that they carried over your fandom of Konosuba and Overlord.
If it's 3 out of 4, at least it's 3 out of 4, right?
Yeah. But I've watched all 4 of those, and I have no inkling of wanting to check out Isekai Quartet. Or it's more just the fact that I'm lazy and I don't want to watch it.
I just think that there's so much other stuff out there that is worth your time that this crossover is not a bad decision, but it is not the greatest decision either.
Yeah. So I think in summation then, right, there are many ways to look into why there aren't many Japanese on Japanese crossover medias, right? Logistics, legal issues, fan bases, and whatnot. But I think the ultimate one, if we were to remove all that, remove the legality, the business side, and the tribalism, I personally think that crossovers don't really exist in Japanese anime media because there's really no point. Nobody is really asking to see if Naruto is better than any characters in Bleach. Nobody's really asking if, for example, Captain Tsubasa were to jump forward in time and play in the same team as Awashi.
Sure.
Because I think that there is already more than enough to enjoy within one particular series, one particular medium, that adding stuff into it through forced crossover kind of just dilutes the pool.
Or just ignored, and then it's a waste of resources and time.
Yeah. Like, if a studio decided they wanted to make an original out of it, by all means, go for it. But I don't know if it would serve the purpose of furthering each respective fandom, right? Like, if you were to watch let's say, a crossover of My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer, right? I don't know that it would then increase the amount of viewership for each respective fan base. 'Cause I think that the fan bases alone for each respective series is already high enough. You don't need to add characters from Demon Slayer and try and hype up more of what's happening in My Hero Academia and vice versa. Right? Kirito is not going to enhance my enjoyment of watching One Piece. Luffy is not going to do the same for me with watching Sword Art Online.
But in your defense, Luffy will space jam the shit out of Kuroko no Basuke. I'm just saying.
So that's why I'm saying that it would have worked with iShield 21.
Well, could be. I just think that at the end of the day, crossovers in general, again, if we exclude like those product placements or those like, again, Hello Kitty X Gundam, like if we do an actual full-length production and be super serious about it and make a big deal of it, there's not only so many hoops to go through, right, in a realistic setting, negotiations is going to be so complicated and messy. The last thing I think also is important is there's already a market for it, the fanfiction doujinshi market, such that people just don't bother with the crossovers because it would have already been done if they wanted to in like the fans themselves. And I just feel like at that point, that's why everyone likes to theorycraft it, but then when I put it in front of you to consume, you'll be like, nah, I'm good.
There are only 2 instances where I see crossovers working. And it's basically the only 2 where they work. One, which is the classic Avengers model, which is you basically cross over characters and storylines of the same continuum, of the same universe. I know, of course, you had the multiverse thing with, each Marvel property and whatnot, but it's all still within like the same kind of make-believe fiction, right? So that's why like Rave Master and Fairy Tail work, because they were both done by the same creator, much like Inuyasha, Rama Half, and Urusei Yatsura. The other one is mashing up of characters that didn't really have like that either didn't have much prior story, as in like an actual media.
So you have creative room, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Or it's just like you're mixing fictional historical characters put together and seeing what happens if you were to see them fight, much in the same way of like Records of Ragnarok and Drifters.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think the logic is very simple in that when this episode is talking about crossovers, specifically anime and manga, but how much of our conversation actually involved anime and manga and not other mediums or Western?
It did.
It did.
It basically talked about anime and manga and why it doesn't work.
Exactly. Because we spent so much time talking about not it. That's why.
It's the absence of it, where it's like you wonder why it doesn't exist, and we've given you a pretty clear reason as to why it doesn't work.
Yeah. And it's not in the conversation.
There's no need for it, and there is also no room for it, because there's already enough manga and anime as is. The last thing we need in a 60 series season is a crossover episode of whatever hype series there are.
I think there's also, this just came to mind, so I will just say this before we go into housekeeping script, is one of the things that actually I did not consider until literally just moment is, well, who is going to maintain that crossover? Like Isekai Quartet, right? You're not going to get the writers and the directors of those series to do the Isekai Quartet. You might get another studio and another writer, because you're not going to get the OG. You might get, for example, the blessing of the creators.
Well, they made it work in the sense that they managed to pump out 2 seasons in a movie, but much in the same way that you were saying, like, who's going to maintain that shit? Most of these are going to be one-offs, right? If there was going to be a crossover, it would be an ONA, it'd be an advertisement, a commercial, or it would be like promotional material.
I mean, Isekai Quartet and Kengan Ashura, or Baki X Kengan Ashura is literally unicorns, the exception to the goddamn rule. Like, there really is nothing else, almost.
Like, I could totally see like a Nissan, not Nissan, but a Nissan commercial of like Luffy and Kirito fighting over
a bowl of cup noodles.
Yeah,
yeah, because at that point it's so detached.
And it has nothing to do with their respective properties.
So
it's
there's
it's just for the sole purpose of advertising.
So then, therefore, there is no consequences in terms of ruining or diluting, unless if obviously the thing you're advertising is really bad.
Yeah.
But with the exception of that, there's no issue. So that being said, we have crossed over into the housekeeping script, and I will then tell you that we would like to thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. We appreciate you leaving a ratings or review. If you don't, that's all good. We thank you for listening nonetheless. I think one of those things is when you think of crossovers, I think it does lead to a lot of conversation, but it's almost like a nothing burger sometimes at a certain point, right?
I mean, that's the whole point of why it's called theory crafting.
Mm-hmm.
It's all theory. It's not realized.
Yeah, and if you would like to theorycraft and tell us your thoughts, you can always contact us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com, GAPALETTE, all lowercase, all one word. You can also use the handle @PaletteGood, capital P and capital G, all one word. We have a Discord server. We have a website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Life is a Party by John Runefelt. Our break music is Chemistry Love by Swift7. And our outro music is Voyage by Pow. You can support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or your music listening platform of choice. And Epidemic Sound provides all of our royalty-free music. If you're interested, you can sign up using the referral link in the show description. Terms and conditions apply. I think really at the end of the day, again, going off of how rare crossovers are in the truest sense in anime, manga, light novels, is the fact that the general fan base does not give a shit about it.
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say they will want it.
So you're in agreement, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't think that like there are fans that are dying to see a crossover of two different series just to see what would happen, because it would be very short-lived. It would just be like a singular experience that really has no reason to carry on, right? Like, for example, like, okay, in a world where there is imagine like the big three collaborated, right? One Piece, Bleach, Naruto.
Oh, I thought you meant J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake.
We'll take Drake off.
Okay, there's just Big Me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all three of those anime series, if, for example, like they made a crossover season, however that would work, and it was super popular, what would happen to each individual series?
Nothing.
Right? But then let's say like,
I mean, that's my guess. It would be nothing.
So then you have the decision to make here. This crossover was super, super popular. Do you continue making it?
Yes.
Then what happens with the others? You also make those too?
Yeah, because they all print money.
Money is one thing, but manpower is the other too. Right?
Yeah. But if I'm an executive, right, and I own those IPs and rights, and I can make it happen, and I know for a fact the first season earned a lot of money, or some stats saying that it increased our brand or whatever, I will continue doing the same thing. Right? That's why we get the isekai rinse and repeat premise, is because it somehow works. Somehow we all consume it to a certain degree.
Yeah. Problem is, though, is longevity then. Because you already see how long One Piece has been running for. And let's say like this is like in the early 2000s. So we're still seeing a lot of Naruto and Bleach and whatnot.
Okay.
Right?
Well, with the big three example that you just gave, let's say Shonen Jump is not affiliated with any of those. And let's say they're separate.
They're independent properties.
Yeah. So then you won't even you only call it the big three because they were the three most popular at that time and all on Shonen Jump. There's really actually no connection beyond that.
Yeah.
And that
it was self-made.
I know.
It was definitely crafted by the fans. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean is like, it's Shonen Jump don't even call it the big three. It's like society fan base called it the big three. So we just kind of self-insert project into it.
Yep.
So if they don't give a fuck, what makes to say that they will give a fuck to the point where they will make something?
I have a feeling though that like, let's say that they were under the same umbrella.
I mean, they are.
Yeah. No. Okay. And this crossover were to happen, right?
Okay.
I feel it would be more likely that they would just put all their efforts into making that one thing. Just make this as big as possible, because you've already bridged all three fan bases together. They're all under one roof. keep it simple. Just produce this one thing, make billions off of it, rather than dividing up your efforts between four different properties, one of which being the crossover. I see your point in terms of if the money's good on all four sides, just keep making money on all four sides.
Mm-hmm.
Logistically, that'd be really difficult. That's why I'm adding some
Sure.
caveats.
No.
To this.
Of course. So you're saying it would just be that one, right?
Yeah, whatever you decide to call Bleach piece to toe.
So in other words, it is the One Piece. One Piece turns out to be
the big one.
The big one, the crossover of the three into the one.
Yeah.
The Father, the Ghost, and the Holy
Spirit. And of course, we're through this. We're also completely ignoring the legacies of each respective mangaka. I get that, but this is again still a very much very hypothetical situation, right? I think it would just be easier for them to just put all their eggs into that one basket, as opposed to trying to divide up attention across all four.
I just wouldn't make it in the first place.
Yeah, no, there's just absolutely no need for it.
But there is need for you to listen to more of our GAP Palette podcast. GAP podcast. And take a rest, chill out, and we'll catch you on the next episode.